John Earle Sullivan, who is a Utah man, who recorded himself on January 6th inside the Capitol, was sentenced Friday to 6 years in prison. Now, I want to read, this is, of course, a Washington Post headline, so I want to read how the Washington Post characterizes this, okay? It says, a Utah man who recorded himself inciting violence and breaking a window before filming the fatal shooting of Ashley Babbitt outside the House chamber during the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack was sentenced Friday to 6 years in prison. Now, I'd just like to ask Steve Baker, who was there and has been talking about this extensively on social media, is that so?
Some of that is so. I mean, John Sullivan is easily in the top 5, maybe top 3 most interesting characters that day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy that had brought with him the label of BLM, Antifa. He has been since accused of being a Fed operative of some sort. His family has been mischaracterized terribly. His father happens to share the same name of an Air Force general who was involved in intelligence operations, whereas his father is actually a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army and not the guy that was involved in intel. So you can see where all of the people like you like to jump in now and make a grand conspiracy out of it.
Absolutely.
But he did say some scary words. He said some very insightful things. He was trying to, I'm not going to quote him and use the exact language he used inside the Capitol, but he wanted to F things up. And he said very clearly that he wanted to incite MAGA to burn this down. Mm-hmm. And so he did have this kind of language. Now, the whole time he was doing this, he was being filmed by another person, a documentarian by the name of Jade Sacker, who was doing a documentary on him and his brother. They were the white sheep, black sheep in the family kind of situation where they were, one guy had become the activist Republican.
You hate to be featured as the black sheep in a documentary.
Well, in their case, they're two black adopted children into a white Mormon family. And so the brothers were bitter rivals. They're not blood brothers. They were adopted separately from different parentage, and bitter rivals. One went to the left, one went to the right. This girl found out their story, started doing a documentary on them. She followed John Sullivan there, and then everything escalates, and the story, explodes and goes in all different conspiratorial directions from that point. And I actually believed most of that for well over 2 years until I started diving in, started interviewing the brothers, started interviewing the parents, started following the facts on the ground, started seeing all of the video. When people, I'd challenge anybody out there that if you thought you saw John Sullivan on the Capitol campus that day wearing a Trump hat, and you text me, X me, call me, or otherwise criticize me and say, I saw that with my own eyes. No, you didn't. You didn't.
It wasn't him.
No, it wasn't him. And I have had people just in the last few days since his sentencing sending me photos of other black men wearing a MAGA hat. And I'm like, no, that's not John Sullivan.
That's awkward.
Thanks for yes, it is awkward. But this is what people have been plied with by the grifters, the J6 conspiratorialists, the people that are making a living, making a money about blowing this thing up bigger than. Look, it's big. It's big enough on its own.
Right.
You know as well or better than anybody how impactful this is on people's individual lives, and in Sullivan's case. And we won't take the whole segment here to let me just ramble on, but I'll just rant for one more second here.
Please.
Is that 98% of what everybody out there thinks that they know about Sullivan is not true, and that doesn't take away from the bad things he said,
right,
from the bad things he did, the stuff that he did long before January 6th, the stuff he did on that day, the stuff that he said after. It's all on the record. He said these things. Now, is he even telling the truth about himself? Is he even, when I interviewed his brother lied to me. The GOP brother, the Republican activist, told me a string of lies that I've been able to invalidate just by the video. I don't need somebody else to contradict him. But when you have access to unlimited amount of video to watch these guys and watch their behavior from morning till the end of the evening, and you find out, Sullivan was not leading 200 Antifa people on January 6th. Yeah. He was a lone wolf with a young girl, Jade Sacker, following him around with a camera to document that, and he made the most of it by being loud, boisterous, scary words, insightful, because he was trying to make his bones as an activist in that space.
Now, see, I, for one, am surprised that there's misinformation concerning January 6th. This is the first time learning this. Yeah. That there are things that we hear that aren't true.
Right. Well, we know that you stole, government property and took it home with you, right?
I got a plane seat for it. I tucked it in and everything, and every night I wax it one more time just to make sure it stays in good condition.
I am watching you with all of this stuff, all of this furniture here on this set. I've got my eye on you, Adam.
That's understandable. I've got a history. Yeah.
We're just still trying to figure out if we can even legally be in the same room together at this point. So
we're all going to find out now. So then I guess I'm not going to push back, but I'm just devil's advocate here. I think that it's hard for people because there have been so many questions about whether the feds were involved, to what extent the feds were involved, all of the hearings where they couldn't directly answer questions on how many federal assets they had in the crowd inciting them, and all the stuff about Ray Epps, that I think the one thing that remains certain is that the American people have absolutely no reason to trust that their government is telling them the truth. And that's where you get all of the crazy conspiracy theories and distrust.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I've dedicated my life to proving that what they are doing to these January 6th defendants is absolutely immoral, illegal. It is evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are not telling us the truth.
Yeah.
But not every single rock has a demon underneath it.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the point of a lot of the misinformation is to get people confused about what actually happened that day. There are a lot of people who showed up to a protest, they walked in a building, and they went to prison for it. Yeah. They're doing nothing more than exercising their First Amendment rights. Right. And they keep throwing the misinformation out here because they want to keep people in the dark about it.
Amen. Amen. We got to go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Steve, you mentioned a great point. I want you to go ahead and repeat on air.
Well, it's important for everyone to focus on what he got sentenced for. For scary words, he got sentenced to 6 years in prison, whereas other January 6th defendants who did actual violence, actually assaulted law enforcement officers, didn't get that much.
Why?
Because all of January 6th is about scary words. If you're Stuart Rhodes, you got 18 years because you supported the president in evoking the Insurrection Act.
Yeah.
Well, the president didn't, so Rhodes didn't do anything.
Right.
He didn't carry any weapons into the district. He didn't go into the building, and he didn't order his oath keepers to attack Congress.
So about scary words and also embarrassing pictures. Looking at you, Adam.
It's embarrassing them. That's what the picture does.
Yeah.
They do not like to be made fun of.
I didn't mean embarrassing to you.
Yeah, I love that picture. I think it's
hilarious.
Iconic. I think it's hilarious.
It is. I love that he says this. Which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen, Adam is doing like a Capitol tour.
I am.
And he was there in D.C. Tell them what the shirt said.
Oh, the shirt said, "I visited the Capitol and all I got was solitary confinement."
So good. I didn't get solitary confinement, but I still want one. It's so good. Gentlemen, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you